Welcome to the Power of Design podcast, where we have inspiring conversations that explore the intersection of architecture, construction, and real estate, so we can understand the dynamics and trends that shape an exciting and powerful built environment. This is your host, Jack Osa. In today's episode, I talk to Martin Walsh. Martin is the Vice President of Facilities Development at Sonic Automotive. With more than 20 years of experience in the construction industry, today Martin is responsible for the development, design, and construction of a nationwide portfolio of projects. Martin is a strategic thinker with a focus on operational efficiency and business growth. During our conversation, we talk about his upbringing in rural Ireland, migrating to the United States to build a life, and how to manage complexity in the fast-changing design and construction world. Talking to Martin, I learned about work ethic, construction quality, team building, and what is a no-excuse attitude to deliver a project with excellence. If you receive an email from Martin, you will see in his email signature with this quote: "To think is easy, to act is hard, but the hardest thing in the world is to act in accordance with your thinking." Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Please take a listening to my conversation with Martin Walsh. Martin, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Martin, you have more than 20 years of experience managing projects in the construction industry. And today you are responsible for the development, design, construction, and delivery of a nationwide portfolio for a Fortune 500 company. What is the single most important strategy to maintain growth and quality in a large-scale project delivery process?
I think in today's day and age, there are many, but I think top among them is the ability to work as a team. And you've got a team of people that work for you, as in architects, engineers, but also internal partners within the company. So I think anticipation skills of what someone else is thinking and needs, and the ability to transform that into a team dynamic is critical.
How much of that team is outside of your organization?
My direct area of responsibility, 85% of my team is outside of our organization.
Wow.
We depend heavily on outside partners to deliver what we need to do for our organization.
Right. So it's more of your role, kind of orchestrate, project the vision, and making sure that they're in line with, what your requirements are.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, within the business is to establish what the requirements for a particular project is with the business. And, the way we're structured, we're a franchise on our OEM business. And so we have to even take into account our OEM's needs and wants, and we have to balance that with finance along with our internal operational needs. And then we come up with what would be the start of a project.
Yep.
And then we have to be able to communicate that need to the partners that we depend on to deliver it for us.
Right. Interesting. Tell me about you. Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
So I grew up in Ireland, the west of Ireland, on a small farm in an area of Ireland called County Mayo, and a town called Cultiman. So challenge you to say that a few times fast.
Yeah.
So, I grew up working on the farm with my dad, my grandmother, my uncles, friends. That was life. We'd go to school, come home, work on the farm, worked in the farms all the summer. So that was a big part of what formed work ethic that I think we take into today and everything I do.
Sure.
Work all kinds of hours on the
farm.
farm.
I guess no iPad at that time.
With no iPads in the west of Ireland in the 1980s, no. Yeah. Absolutely not. And so, went to university in Ireland, moved here to the United States in 1998 permanently. Started out in California and, worked on some fun projects in downtown San Francisco and Los Angeles over the years, and moved here to Charlotte 7 years ago and haven't looked back since. Really love the area here.
Why did you guys move to United States?
So, my wife is from the United States, and I actually started growing up in Philadelphia. So my first 4 years of my life, memories of life, are from the United States.
Okay.
I came to the United States my summers of college to make some money, because at that time Ireland hadn't gone through its quote-unquote Celtic Tiger yet. And so I came over here to make some money and liked the lifestyle during my summers at college. And, after college, I spent 2 years in London and, always had the inkling to wanting to come back, at least try the United States. And so ended up moving with my now wife to California in 1998, which was the height of the first dot-com boom.
Sure.
So it was a good time to be in California, and really enjoyed life out here, and kind of got settled and haven't looked back in the last number of years.
Sure. Yeah, I can identify. I'm also a first generation immigrant, and when I came for the first time, and not only United States but specifically Charlotte, I really liked it. It was such a big contrast with the city where I grew up. In Bogota, Colombia, that has like 9 million people. It's like New York City, man. It's fast. There's all the problems of big cities. And when I came to Charlotte, I was like, oh my God, this thing is nice. I want to stay here. And it kind of fit my personality. Yeah. So, I made it my home. This is my...
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, for me, it was kind of the opposite, going from Ireland in a small rural town, going to London and then to California. It was the opposite experience. But... when you're young, you enjoy that fast pace. But, 7 years ago, my wife and I had 2 little kids, and we were looking for a place to really make a home for our family and bring our girls up. And so Charlotte really fit that bill and checked all the boxes. So we couldn't be happier with the move here.
It does. Cool. So when you were in California, what kind of jobs did you have? How it started you to get involved in the construction industry?
Okay, so I moved there, didn't know anybody. So back then we had to fax resumes in to companies. Yeah. So I was literally faxing 20 resumes a day from my brother-in-law's office to looking someone to pick up the phone, would answer the phone when I called. It was very, very daunting when I look back on it, and got a lot of no's and a lot of, the Irish guy with the degree from where, Galway, what is that, type of a thing. So it really taught me a lot about the importance of perseverance. And ultimately, long story short, I took a temp job working for an environmental engineering firm, doing reports on, at that point in time, underground storage tanks. Removals was in full swing with the federal government grants, and so we were doing reports on that. But it was not my calling, but I was qualified to do it given my degree. Right. But kept hustling, looking for a construction-based job, because that's kind of where my passion lied. And right before Thanksgiving in 1998, I got lucky, got a job with a company called Clark Pacific, which at the time was a small precast concrete company in Northern California that did primarily architectural facades for buildings. And it was a vertically integrated company even at that time. So designed, built, installed all of their own product. And so, I didn't know it at the time, but when I got in there, it really resonated with me, just being able to be involved in all aspects of something like that and have something real tangible to show at the end of a period of time. Yeah. So really enjoyed that. So that really was formed I would say, what was a big foundation of my career, basically, because attention to detail was critical. Developing relationships with architects that I still have to this day, 20 years later, out in San Francisco. Yeah. Those sorts of things were really important, because we were, at the end of the day, a subcontractor that would work for a general contractor who was working for an owner. But we were the showpiece of the building. So, one, for example, is the St. Regis Hotel in downtown San Francisco, 42-story building, which at the time was the tallest building built post-earthquake in the city. Yeah, which has been far surpassed since with Salesforce and these other guys since. But at the time, it was a big deal. And, we were constantly pushing the envelope in the precast business on how to make the exterior skins more efficient, faster to install for owners, which ultimately would collapse schedules and get projects online quicker. Right. And so on that particular job, we devised a scheme to pre-install all the glass in the panels before they went on the building, and we turned over 4 floors a week, which was phenomenal pace. Wow. And we were able to stay within, 3-4 floors of the pour floor. So it was extremely efficient to get that tower built. and working with contractors, how to do that with tower cranes and everything else was very, very interesting work. And I was doing that at a very young age.
Yeah, no, it's
So
a great
it
opportunity.
really was a great opportunity to really develop skills that stood to me for life.
If design was part of that, that will give you a more comprehensive understanding of, a concept, a drawing, coordination, engineering, material, the whole spectrum of creating built environment.
Yep, 100% right. I mean, it was, we had all the way down to logistics. Jack was critical. We would draw every panel going on a truck because obviously economics was critical. Getting to your point, the final built environment look was critical, but how to do that in the most cost-effective manner is always the challenge.
Yeah.
And fast forward in 20 years, that company, since I've left them, have grown exponentially and ultimately delivered the new Apple headquarters. They did all the precast concrete on the new Apple headquarters out there.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal company and great ownership there with Bob and Don Clark, and founded by their father Jim. But I mean, just tremendous company, and I was very lucky to work for them for the number of years that I did.
Nice. So, do you agree when people say that in a construction project you can only have one of two: speed, quality, or cost?
No, I don't. Quite
you
honestly,
do the three of them?
I challenge people all the time.
Yeah,
when
that's
I hear
like
that.
a preconceived notion. I hear it all the time.
Yeah,
and honestly, in words makes sense, but I'd love to hear what you think about that.
So I think that's quite honestly a cop-out, and it's people not challenging themselves to find a better way. And again, I know we'll talk a little bit later, but one of the lucky things at Sonic that I've got is I've got a boss that challenges me consistently to find a better way to do it, a more cost-effective, but we're not going to sacrifice in quality, and we're not going to sacrifice in our brand.
Sure.
And I think it's just thinking different is the critical. Be willing to think differently every time, even if you're building a distribution center, think different. Even though it's the same shape the next time, is there a different trick there, new technology available? What is it? But absolutely, you can balance everything.
Nice.
You can.
I changed my mind now.
Yeah.
You changed my mind.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's transition to your role today. So you're vice president of facilities development at Sonic Automotive. What is that role about? What are your responsibilities?
Sure. So I'm responsible for all of the project development across the country, from coast to coast. And, we've got a portfolio of 30, 40 projects in some part of the evolution of a project, whether that's close out all the way to just starting out the concept. So there's quite a lot to balance there. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for hiring all of our vendors, architects, engineers, our contracting partners, our third-party vendors. So responsible for all of it, and got a great team that really around me that really makes my life a lot easier.
Sure.
I mean, we really have some very talented individuals on our small internal team that I'm extremely fortunate to have, and we've got a great Sonic team in general, corporately. I mean, a lot of great leaders in the company that really makes my life a lot easier.
Good. How long have you been in that role?
So I've been 5 years in this role now since I took the job. So it's been fun every step of the way. And, I was challenged coming in. One of the challenges was to refine our delivery model, refine the quality with which we deliver facilities, and make the process repeatable and sustainable. Yeah. And we've gone about that in a very organized fashion, and got playbooks developed, design standards developed, all things that are critical to taking whatever you can take off the table as a variable. We've taken off the table, but still keeping the challenger mentality where we're challenging ourselves to continually get better in what we deliver and how we deliver.
Sure. What do you think is or what are the set of unique skills that makes you good at what you do?
Well,
because there is something.
Yeah, well, there could be a lot of answers to that question, but I think, it goes back to just where I was reared, and the work ethic that was instilled in me by my parents. I think quite honestly is where it started. And, obviously there's been a lot of experiences over the last 20 years, both personally and professionally, that have had an impact on me. But I think, a couple of things. I think, I have a drive to get an answer. I mean, that's just insatiable.
Yeah.
I would say. I think I love working in a team environment, which if you don't, you're kind of in the wrong business doing this job, because it is truly a huge team effort to deliver any facility, all the way from just getting finance approved to, getting into execution mode. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of people. In fact, it's a wider breadth of people involved with the project than I would have even thought coming into this role, even though I've been in the construction industry for, at the time, 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, when you think about what it takes from an owner's perspective to deliver a project, from dealing with, your internal stakeholders, your internal executive management team, a board of a company. In our case, we've got stockholders, we've got cities. There's just a lot of people that touch a project and will impact the success or failure of a project.
Sure.
That's pretty amazing.
What kind of things do you do in your personal life to keep yourself growing personally, professionally?
Yeah, I think quite a few different things. I've got a lot of interests, outside of construction, that I kind of try to relate to construction. So sports is a big passion of mine. So I think, watching what goes on there and listening to particularly the Billy Beane model, and kind of now how all that has spawned in, with, different organizations taking analytics and, taking a step back and seeing, okay, how can we do some of that and what we're doing, and create, data trends and what we're doing to help us predict what stuff is going to cost us or whatever. Yeah, is one thing. So I look outside of the construction industry quite a bit. Today, obviously, I like organizations like the Urban Land Institute, things like that. I involved there just to kind of learn from, basically the capital markets, where, where things are headed. Listening to economists, you get to hear a lot of cool things there that can kind of help shape you. Then with the direct personal development things, I'm always taking different courses, whether it's, back in the day, I was one of the first people to get LEED certified in our company back in California. Yep. Or I should say LEED accredited, not certified. Sure. Buildings get certified. I was DBIA. I was on the board of the DBIA out in California and got my DBI accreditation for Design Build, Institute. Yeah. Right now working on getting my PMP accreditation. So I'm always looking at ways to, refine the skills. What I find today, so long as it's more indirect kind of refinement, I really find it interesting how you can look at these different areas and take things and apply them to what you're doing. There's no one. When I came out of college, there's the one answer to the test. Yes. What I found out is really there's not any one answer. You have to take things and shape them and work them for your personality. Spend a lot of time on then personal, just coaching, professional coaching. I've been fortunate enough that I've had a couple of professional coaches that have really had a really positive impact on my career and on my life in general. So, I think that's really important for any individual to really self-reflect. Sure. And, be able to, and not be afraid to make changes in how you operate, Yeah.
We'll be right back with more from the Power of Design podcast.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by OSA Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design. We partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
One of the things that I realize as I get older is that usually what's going to take you to the next level, it's not within your area of expertise or what you do. When you talk about looking at different industries or somewhere else outside of your world, usually the answer is out there. I think sometimes we get blindsided by our context. That the solution might be simple. Even just doing this podcast for me, like
Yeah.
this has nothing to do with what I actually do for a living,
Yeah.
but it's having a huge impact in my business, in my brand, and it was a simple thing that I never saw it as a direct benefit, but now that I'm putting the time and work on it, I'm seeing the benefits.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
It's
you've done a great job with it, and some great interesting topics, and I think that's the thing is you just come from like the construction industry in general is a very insular bubble. And a lot of times people think they have it all figured out. We're full of big egos and all those sorts of things.
Yep.
But I think there's always a danger of getting comfortable with that if you're not careful. And I think back to the earlier question you'd asked about, can you have the three legs of the stool? I mean, that's just something that's been thrown about the construction industry forever. And the question I'd ask people is, why is that? Why can't?
Yeah, why are you limiting yourself to give up the third one? That's the question. Nice. Going back to your role within Sonic Automotive, how do you see, or how is technology impacting what you do?
Yeah, it has a huge impact in more ways than just what people in the construction industry might think as far as technology, whether that be BIM or a project management tool like Procore. We have technology that we have to integrate all the way from our OEMs on how we sell cars. We have internal technologies that have been developed, and ultimately we have to work very closely with our IT department on delivering our frontline IT solutions and technology solutions. Yeah. And that's something that I find shocking in the industry at how little the engineers and architects out there consider that when designing a facility. It's actually kind of shocking, to be quite honest with you. It's the people take the tack that, that's the owner's IT department, they can figure that out. Yeah. But the reality is, if you can't design an integrated facility and deliver one that takes account of the owner's technology needs, to me, in this day and age, that's a failed.
Sure, you're not adding value.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, today technology is everywhere. It's critical for any business and how they operate. And to be out there designing like the old school brick and mortar is just, it's amazing to me that still exists in the industry today.
Sure.
So that's one thing. Then I think directly, it's when it comes to the direct delivery of a project, I would tell you, I think it's backwards. Technology has gone, not forwards. I think there's too many tools, too many what I would call trinkets. Yeah. And not enough of a consolidated delivery model on technology between design community and the contracting community and subcontracting community. Sure. Everybody has their own tool that they think is better than everybody else. And the reality is nobody is sitting out there, at least I shouldn't say nobody, but nobody that I've talked to is out there saying, okay, Sonic, what do you need to be successful? And at the end of the project, what does success look like for you in closing out a project? Yeah. And that is a major, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Sure. Because these people I deal with other owners too. Yeah. And it's, I would tell you it's backwards. It's gone from 5 years ago from my perspective.
And I think that it's a byproduct of, just technology and communication, because even if you Google, when I was going to start podcasting, if you Google how to podcast, you find 3,000 answers. Yeah. No, use this mic, this one. Okay, this software. It's just overwhelming amount of choices that is actually making it difficult.
Correct.
Because it's adding complexity. Yes. And in order to streamline and make things better and faster, you need simplicity.
100%.
And simplicity is not easy. No. It's easier to be complex.
It's easier to talk about simplicity. And then people, in my role, the other thing I find interesting is, and I understand now when I used to go meet with owners when I was on the other side of the fence, why they would be so defensive. Because people come in and tell you, we're going to do the best job better than anybody else, bar none, yada, yada, yada. Well, the reality is everybody's pretty much doing it the same way. Sure. And nobody that I've dealt with has figured out, okay, to deliver a consolidated thing to make Martin's life easier when he owns the facility and he's dealing with his operations team and we're gone. What does that look like? There's nobody that's come to me with a solution on that front.
Sure.
And, even when it comes down to operating the operation of a building, like the mechanical systems and all that. I mean, yeah, sure, you put control systems in, but there's no integrated way to basically manage that. That you've got warranties over here in this PDF. There's no one solution that's out there.
Yeah.
And nobody is working towards it that I can see, because I've talked to some of the top, BMS companies out there at senior levels and different. Everyone is kind of, at this point, it's really weird. 4 years ago, it was like, oh, we're going to have FIM, we're going to have all this stuff. All that is just, talk of all that has just kind of died.
Yeah.
And you talk to these guys that put in your BMS systems, they're like, well, this is all we've got, kind of a thing. And so it's just a very interesting time right now, where we should be having a revolution in data, in the data age.
Sure, but I will see that that's even opening a huge opportunity for somebody to step up and, okay, let's make this simple. Let's make some integration. And I'm sure it's going to include some software associated with it, some data, but maybe that's your next project.
Yeah, I don't think so. We'll give our IT guy a heart attack here. No. I think, that, there's definitely an opportunity there, but I think the thing that's making it more complicated, all joking aside, is organizations with cybersecurity today is making all of that more complex than ever, because it's just become such a hot button and it's become such a challenge to organizations. It really makes it difficult to come up with a streamlined solution. So it's definitely not an easy thing to solve, but there is somebody out there I know that can do it for sure.
Sure. What will you say is the biggest challenge that your clients are facing today?
Well, so I guess my clients, the way I look at it is, we constantly talk about this in our team, is who is our client? Is it the customer buying the cars from us and getting the car serviced, or is it our internal clients, right? And to me, it's both. I think we have to, my primary focus is to, make sure that our internal associates feel, engaged, empowered in what they're doing, and they have what they need from the context of what I deliver to be successful, so that we take any issues with occupying and operating a building, make it as simple as possible for them, and give them the support that they need in our capacity. Yeah. And then I think, we want the environment to be inviting to our guests, not when they come in the door, that they're not feeling, oh, here we are in another dingy car dealership, so to speak. So, we've worked really hard to, create a balance, obviously, with creating the right environment at the right value for the company. And, I feel really good about where we're headed. But, again, the challenge always is integrate the technology so that when someone comes in the door, a guest, that their phone works the way they expect it to work, all those things. I mean, they don't want to drop cell phone service when they come into a concrete box, So there's a lot of things to be thought about, and little details that's really critical to the, just the overall experience for both the customer and our associates. Yeah,
I think it's a very interesting conversation when when we talk about technology. I see more technology is like more machines, more systems, more dehumanized. But we're using all those tools to make the experience more human. Right. So more connection.
That's right.
More comfortable. Just kind of create that, but it's like pushing both ways, but feeding the other one.
That's right.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. How do you think the design and construction industry will evolve in the future?
Well, I think, it's going to be, I think there's a few ways, right? I think number one, there's no question, it's well documented, the productivity in this sector has to go up. I mean, there's a large disruption. The technology companies are out there just waiting to disrupt the business. And in fact, we've kind of started. I mean, you got Elon Musk out there, and Steve Jurvetson, one of his first backers, they're, playing with the tunnel system to get transportation down south of Los Angeles there as one example, So I think the industry in general, the technology sector in Silicon Valley is going to have an impact. Now, what exactly that impact is, I think remains to be seen, but there's no question that there's going to be an impact there to help drive the productivity up. I mean, you can't have an industry that's been bopping along at the same productivity level today, or even arguably a little bit less than it was in 1972, and every other sector has just gone through the roof by leveraging technology.
Yeah.
So I think, if things come together right with technology, I think, and looking at some trends I see over in Europe, I think manufacturing will truly become mainstream method of delivering facilities. Even the facility we're sitting in here, we manufactured a large piece of this off-site and shipped it to the site. When I had people telling me we couldn't do it back to your 3 stools, we couldn't do it for the cost. Well, we're doing it for the same or cheaper than we would have done with conventional build. I think, the world at large, I think the talent level in this, I think there's never been a more exciting time for a young person to get into this business, as crazy as that sounds, because I think the opportunity is unbound. Mm-hmm. So I really see, even I'm fortunate I've got a couple of young people working in my team, and, I'm just blown away daily by how talented and how they think and just how they can just pick up things quick and solve problems. It's just amazing. Yeah. So I think there's going to be an influx of young people because we've had a huge deficit since the recession that hasn't been replaced. So I think that will turn. I think there's a focus on technical schools and those sorts of things that will help bring all the various levels of talent needed to continue to deliver this, what we do, which I consider a very exciting business. Yeah. So I think, to summarize, I think technology and manufacturing will be big in the future. Yep. And then I think there's going to be a huge opening for young, the next generation of talent to come in and really help, put their imprint on this business. Yeah. And it's overdue, to be quite honest with you.
Sure. I think I see a couple of things that I think they're going to really impact, your industry in terms of, design construction within vehicle transportation. Yeah. And I think one is going to be, the whole conversation about ride sharing. Yeah. Because the most underutilized thing we have, it's a car. It's parked 80 or 90% of the time. And then we drive, we go somewhere else and it's just occupying space. Yeah. So there is this whole conversation about, well, what if car sharing becomes the norm and maybe our kids will never own cars. They just, it's like a super Uber service where you don't need to use it. And the other conversation is the flying cars. Yeah. So how do you see those two trends coming into the market and how soon or how real that's going to be here?
Yeah, so I think, well, ride sharing's here, right? But I mean, they're having their issues, right? I mean, Uber now all of a sudden there's legislation coming on them that makes the Uber drivers become employees, and that's going to have an adverse effect on that industry if it comes to pass. Yeah, I think in general, if you look at norms and you talk to any economists, I shouldn't say any economists, but some of the ones I've listened to, let's just say, they would argue with that mindset. Some of that is, I think, is media hype. I think will some of it happen? Sure. There's been cabs. The last I checked, there's been cabs in New York City forever, right? And so that was ride sharing. It was just a cab. I mean, it was right. You just hail a cab and jump in, a few of you or whatever. That was a form of ride sharing. So I think there's a time and a place. There's been such a migration to urban areas with the millennials, and that being such a large population, it's only stands to reason that, there's going to be some disruption there with ride sharing. But I think now in the last 4 or 5 months, there's been more millennials moving out of cities than into cities, and they're moving to suburbia. So, the natural order of things is going to come back is what I contend. And I think everybody have the same needs and wants that I have, that my parents had. They want a good school for the kids to go to. They want a bit of room. And in fact, I was out in California recently. I talked to a couple of millennials that are moving out of Sacramento to the little town I used to live in Folsom. And they're moving there, but the difference with them moving there from when I moved there, they want amenities on top of the home. Right. So they want the really nice gym. They want the country club. They want the experience. Yeah, and they're willing to pay for it. So I think that'll be a difference you'll see. I think people will continue to own cars. I think the types of cars is where the technology is going to continue to be disrupted. I think the electrical vehicles are going to continue to take hold for everything we're seeing. I think, you see the Chinese companies lining up to get out into California, start manufacturing cars. So I think, they're all doing that because they see the migration starting to happen of millennials, and urban science would tell you that millennials are starting to move out to suburbia again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a certain amount. There's always been people that live in cities. There's going to continue
Sure.
to be, but that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just look at all the companies you see moving to Charlotte with headquarters.
Yeah.
You wouldn't consider Charlotte a New York City, but it's a great place to live, and that's what people are drawn to. And I think the amenities around here are great, and you get the beach easy, you get the mountains easy, you got the whitewater. I mean, there's so many things. Great schools for the families. And I think that's what's going to drive people versus the other way around, where you'll hear some people talking about, ride sharing is going to be the way. I think it's going to be a mixture of both. And I think you're going to have the urban environment, and then you're going to have the suburban. You're going to continue to have suburbia. It's not going to disappear. I mean, like 5 years ago, retail was dead, and now retail is back better than ever. Right, so it's just different.
Yeah,
I mean, they're providing. The retail has really pivoted and provides a great experience for people now, not just a place to go buy a coat or whatever.
Yeah.
On the flying cars, that's an interesting question. So Dean Nelson, he's the head of technology for Uber. He's a great follow, and he talks about this a lot. And they have been focusing a lot of time on the technology to make the flying taxi for sure. I think I read a couple of weeks ago, in fact, there's the first high-rise in downtown LA is making accommodations for flying taxis. But again, I think it'll come, but I do think 3 years ago, the autonomous vehicle was going to be here tomorrow and was still not here. Not that it won't come. I think there's just so many challenges and variables on a road versus what, is even for an airplane to fly, which is very dedicated flight paths. It's just a different situation. So I think, and then you got legislation that has to catch up. Yeah. So there's people out there that thinks that autonomous stuff will become more of a city utility first before it becomes mainstream in a suburban environment. Yeah. So I think it'll be a stepped, and again, that's only my opinion, but everything I've kind of read, put it together, I think it's going to be a stepped approach as it comes out. And I tell you, my daughter's 11 and she's dying to drive a car already, so I think she'll be having a car.
Nice. So, how does the power of design impact who you are and what you do?
Well, it's interesting. So for me, the power of design is everything in everything I do today. And I have a passion around it, and I've had a passion around it since I can remember, even doing high school projects. I mean, I was the architect Candela from South America. I was a big fan of
Felix Candela.
Yeah, I was a fan of his and his hyperbolic paraboloid structures back in the day. And in fact, I did a project in high school. I built a model convention center. Yeah. And so just had something about leaving something behind that you just really is physical, that you can say, look, I was part of that getting done. There's just something to me that just resonates inside of me that really makes it fun. I think the design community in general, we've got a lot of challenges still ahead of us. I really feel like, there's another podcast that, I listen to called Design Matters. Mm-hmm. There's a lady, she's a journalist, but she was also an artist and has a passion around design. And she talked about, the tube systems in England, the underground. And, when you think of design, you don't think of signage and wayfinding being a critical part of design. Well, she pointed out that you go into a tube system, you can easily find out where you're supposed to go, where you're supposed to be, which platform to go onto, what the way out is, all these things. And it resonated with me because, again, I always talk about delivering a complete facility, because not just delivering a building, because a lot of designers will give me an architectural set of plans with no furniture in it, with no signage, with no, low voltage and taken account of, and hey, we're done. And really, that's not to me what design is. Design is creativity, delivering value for a client, understanding what a client needs, what are the critical adjacencies that should be operationally in a building, and really digging underneath the covers on what matters to a particular situation you're dealing with. And that's where I very passionate about, and continue to challenge every day with the partners that work for us. Because if we can't deliver a complete facility that our operations team can go and work in and know what to do with and just do their job and deliver for our frontline customers, then we're doing something wrong.
Sure.
So
Great. Well, Martin, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing your story and your expertise and giving me a tour of this Eco Park facility, which is awesome.
yeah.
And I look forward to, stay connected and see what's next.
Well, thanks for having me, and congratulations on the success of the podcast. It's been a lot of fun here hanging out with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Find out more about Jack and OSA Studio at osastudio.com and follow us on Instagram at the Power of Design podcast. Thank you.